I have Brandon White here with me today. He's a lineman at a local co-op. One of the things that I think is really cool about some of the people that we bring on here, well, all the people that I want to be here on our show, are people that have contributed greatly to the better good of humanity. And that commitment is not just like, hey, lip service. You actually go out and do it every day. So I appreciate you coming on, talk about what y'all do and how y'all do it. And so let's just start off with like where you grew up and just kind of a little background of how you got to the point where you're in the seat you're in.
All right, so I grew up in Nelson County, kind of near Oak Ridge. I've got a younger brother. We were both raised by my dad. We've been in Nelson our entire lives. I kind of grew up so I've got a landscaping business, and my dad pretty much had me and my brother start mowing grass at like 12, 14 years old. And
Who was the best at it? You, your dad, or your brother?
in what aspect?
So what part of it do you excel at? Speed or detail?
I would say detail.
Detail.
Yeah,
Who's the speedster in it?
my brother's probably the faster
Fastest?
one. Yeah.
But you come back and you're like, this doesn't look.
Yeah, I'm really bad about going back. Even when I mow with my wife, she gets mad as hell because I'll go back behind her and
You're like, you missed the spot.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, I was born and raised in Nelson. Mowed grass, worked on farms.
okay. So you go to Nelson County High School. What do you participate in any sports or anything?
Yes, so I started playing soccer when I was probably 6 years old. Parks and Rec. I played soccer through middle school. I played varsity through high school.
Okay.
I graduated in 2009. Went to Ferrum College in Franklin for a year. Played soccer there.
Did they have the turf field there?
No, it was grass.
I was gonna say, what's it? Have you ever played soccer on turf field?
Yeah, at Amherst.
How do you like it?
It's hot. When it's dry, when it's wet, it's like a slip and slide.
Okay. So there's no redeeming qualities for playing soccer on turf.
No.
Even does the ball bounce truer or not really?
It skips.
It skips.
Yeah.
It's because it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
So you grew up, went to Nelson, went to Ferrum College. How did you end up going into a co-op working on an electric company?
So I went to Ferrum to play soccer and study criminal justice.
Okay.
And after my first year, I kind of realized between the price point of it and my interest in life at the time that college was not for me.
Right.
Came back to Nelson, and I was working at a garage that I worked at before I went to Ferrum. And, I enjoyed it, but it didn't pay all that well.
Right.
I mean, probably I wasn't a licensed mechanic or anything, but I was probably making like $8 an hour. And someone had mentioned the job at the co-op, and I didn't even know. I was one of those people that you turn on the lights, you turn off the lights, you don't really think about where it comes from.
Right.
And they were like, we have this job opening, and we'll train you, we'll get you your CDL. We'll start you off at like $16 an hour.
And you're like, whoa, that's double what I'm
making.
making.
I was like, that's double the pay. It's a no-brainer. I'll see what it's about. And they're like, as long as you don't mind being outside, working hard, you'll fit in just fine.
Okay.
So I applied and did the skills test and everything and ended up getting hired. And it was crazy to me, the people that I knew that worked there, that I had no idea what they did before.
So what kind of skills test did they have?
We had a 110-foot bucket. They made sure that you weren't afraid of heights.
So you had to go all the way up over 100 foot?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made it through that. Well, I mean, I've jumped out of helicopters and stuff, but I don't like heights.
Yeah, we did that. They did a climbing test, which I'd never climbed before, and I guess it was just another height challenge.
So what kind of climate? So the climbing that y'all do is a little bit different as far as poles, isn't it? Is it? So what do you, when you look at that, what is the most important thing that to do? I mean, other than not fall, what was the most important thing about climbing a pole?
I mean, not falling's pretty high up,
Right.
and then
So the technique that's used, what is kind of how does that work? What part of your body is it? Your whole body that you're using, or just bits and pieces?
I mean, it's your. So when we climb, we use, which when I first started, which was 2011, was kind of when they implemented the fall restraints before they were free climbing, which is similar to what tree guys. It's just a rope.
Oh, that loop that they just go up with.
Yeah, but what I use, it fully wraps around the pole. If you fall, it catches you, so you can't fall but so far.
I guess because with the other thing, it'll stop you, but it's probably going to sling you into it, and then you're just going to drag your face down the pole.
Yeah, pretty much. I've heard a lot of stories about people pulling splinters out of their chest. And,
Yeah, I guess then falling is a big concern.
yeah, but I mean, falling and then, but when you're training, you don't have to worry about doing like your energized stuff. But in a normal working environment, you have to be careful of your surroundings,
Okay.
to make sure you don't get electrocuted.
So you go from like not knowing anything, like, okay, I flip a switch on, the light comes on. Tell us a little bit about like what you learned over time, like the progression from like a green lineman. Is that called an apprentice? Or what is it called when you first go in?
I mean, green is like, nothing.
Okay.
Which is how I started. And I think since I started, there's only been one other person that's been hired that was completely green.
Okay.
To me, an apprentice is someone who's gone through, basic training. Like we do your commercial driver's license, your CPR first aid, your hurt man rescue, bucket rescue. So you have like a base knowledge of
What the job is. And so you kind of start at that point. So how long was the training that you went through to actually get out to the first job site?
I mean, we do on the job training. I mean, we put our green guys in the field. I mean, my very first day, we had a broken pole on Spruce Creek, and the guys are running around grounding the lines, getting material together, and I'm just kind of looking around trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I don't want to get electrocuted.
Yeah.
And so your first day at work, you've got a down pole. What does that look like? A team of y'all go out there. How big is the team?
Generally, I mean, I think that day I want to say it was like 4 or 5 people, but typically, like when I work call on the week nights or on the weekends, it's usually only 2 people. Unless it's something really big, then we might have 3 or 4 people on site.
So each 2-man truck is a crew, I guess, right?
My crew is three people, but when we run service calls, it's generally 2 people.
All right, so kind of explain what the 3-man team concept is for.
So 3-man team, in theory, if we were to go out and change out a pole, you've got your foreman. Our foreman drive pickup trucks. They get your orders, get your materials, and do the paperwork aspect of it.
So despite what everybody thinks, you don't just magically show up at a job site and all the equipment that you need. It's not like you go to Lowe's and pick up your stuff. You've got to plan it out.
Yeah, which we do have a warehouse department, and the newer guys we have, they've been really good about pulling our material, having our jobs ready and stuff. But on emergency situations,
you don't have that.
You don't. You go out there and you hope you have what you need on the truck. But if you don't, then you either have to come back and get it, you can improvise, or wait for somebody to bring it to you.
All right. So the first day you're out there, you're talking about different people doing different things. I guess you're like, I'm not really sure what they're doing. What does that look like now with the experience that you have? Like, how would you direct somebody? Pole goes down, you got a broken pole, got hot lines on the ground. What do you do?
You kind of have to establish, your work procedures. Like we work off the basis that if it's not grounded, it's not dead. So like if I show up and a pole is down, the first thing I'm going to do is either go back to the fuse or the opening point, make sure that it's open, like the voltage is dead. We're going to set up and put up a set of grounds, which ensures that it is dead, to where you don't have to wear your rubber gloves to work it. And then you're going to start probably separating wires, getting all that straight. And then somebody will bring in a pole, frame the pole, we'll set the pole, put the wire up, ensure that everything is like it's supposed to be. If it's got like a transformer or whatever, do all those connections. Then we'll unground it, make sure that everyone's in the clear, and then we'll go back to the origination, or the point where it takes off.
Okay.
And heat it back up.
So when you say heat it back up, all this terminology is new to me. So explain framing the pole. What does that look like?
Most of the time you'll lay it on the ground, you'll look at what you've got, and you drill a bunch of holes, put material on the pole, and then we'll set it, which I try to set it with as much pre-work done as possible. A lot of people will drill it in the air to make sure their angles are correct and everything, but to me, you can get it close enough beforehand.
So I guess it's like everything else. If you ride down the road, you can kind of tell if somebody knew what they were doing when they set the pole.
Yeah.
And so based on what you've seen so far, are there a lot of technicians at what you do, or I'm not saying at the place that you work, but when you ride down the road and you look, do you see things and you're like, I wouldn't say that was the best work.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you develop while being in the industry, that you constantly look up when you ride down the road, and you're like, that looks like something I did, or that looks like shit.
Yeah. So you were saying as you grew up and like when you were younger, like you spent a lot of time being very detailed. You said you were the one that was the detail, not the fast, which I would say in the type of occupation that you chose is very beneficial. How does that mentality help you in what you do day to day?
I mean, details are everything in the long run. I mean, you can do something and, I'll get it done. You can get it done quick, and you might miss a step, and it'll work now, but 5 or 10 years from now, it might end up being an issue, where if you take that little extra attention to detail, a little bit more time, you don't have to worry about, it being somebody else's problem down the road.
It's like everything else that people do. Like you can either do it do it right the first time, or you're probably going to be back sooner rather than later. Talk about so you frame the pole and everything else. What does grounding a hot line look like?
It's so on a single phase setup, which is 2 wires, a hot wire and a neutral. All grounding it is you connect the ground to your neutral, which there's no voltage isn't able to come onto the line.
Okay. So no matter what happens, you're grounded.
Yeah, we make sure that the line is dead open at some point. We ground it, and then if a freak instance, which my foreman always says, like a stick or a snake or something could come across the
ground
connection point, it'll kick back to the point behind that. It won't come to where you're working.
And the point behind it is the one where you were talking about that you interrupted, or what was the term that you used?
An opening point.
An opening point. So the opening point is, how many poles back is that? Just one, or
it varies.
Okay.
I mean, we've got main opening points. We've got fuses on almost all of our taps. I mean, it could, if it's something close to the station, it could kick all the way back to the station.
So when we talk about stations, are we talking about like those places where they have the wire around them and it's a
big substation?
Big substation.
Yeah.
And then when it goes out from there, what does it look like? So you have I'm thinking about, and this is just how my brain works. It's like the dam down in Snowden. what is that? Is that a substation or is that
The dam should be a generation
generation station?
station, yeah.
Okay, so the most of the power that we get, where's it come from?
I think we buy our power from the Midwest, and it comes in on transmission. The big lines that you see, like the 100, 200-foot structures, and then it goes to our substations, which are distribution stations, and then that's what steps the voltage down and then distributes it, which most of our voltage is 14,000. So it's our primary lines send 14,000 like to your transformer pole.
Okay.
And then your transformer steps it down from 14.4 to 240, which is what your house runs off of.
That's a long way from flipping a light switch, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So obviously, I think there's been a lot of conversations lately about like how our power is part of the critical infrastructure. Those big power stations, what are some of the components in those big? What do you? I'm trying to think of the right terminology. So you have your distribution stations, and then you have your What did you call those? Generation
Stations.
Yeah,
That's the correct term.
but anyway, so the places where the power originates.
Yeah.
So like in the Midwest, the power that y'all are buying, do you have any idea what kind of power that is?
I mean, I imagine a lot of coal, maybe some hydro.
Okay. So the one down in Snowden, what is that? That's
that would be a hydro.
But it's AEP, right? Is that somebody else?
I don't know where Snowden is, to be honest.
It's the one at 130 and 501. That dam. No idea.
Nope.
You don't go that far.
Nope.
So you and I think that's what's kind of interesting is I think people take for granted like, hey, I flip a switch, it goes on, but like it is really odd, not odd, but it's just really, I think it's very interesting that in Nelson County, y'all cover what? Nelson County.
I mean, we go between, we've got 3 divisions. We go Amherst on the backside of Long Mountain, to Green, to Orange, to out past Pamplin and Appomattox. And I'm not sure how far towards Richmond they go. But
y'all cover a big area.
Oh yeah, our meters compared to our line mileage it's a lot. I mean, which in like area wise, it's a lot. We've only got like 37,000 meters total. But I want to say we got like 7,600 miles of line.
So what you do in a rural area is a lot different than a lineman in like a city.
Oh yeah, they could have that amount of meters in a few blocks.
Okay, so it's just a different thing as far as rural, and so like y'all have to learn a whole different skill set on maintaining rural lines. Yeah. What are some of the equipment that y'all use to maintain that? And like, let's talk about that first, and then go into kind of what y'all do for maintenance.
Equipment wise?
Yeah, so what kind of equipment on a daily basis are y'all looking at?
As far as maintenance, so we've got a right-of-way program. We've got tree cutters. A couple times a year, we bring in a helicopter because a lot of our terrain is mountains.
And you can't get to it.
And you cannot get equipment up there. So we bring in a helicopter that side trims. We contract sprayers. They go up. Well, they spray everything. They do the mountains, they do the flats, but just trying to keep the lower vegetation down. We do a lot of preventative maintenance, cutting dead trees, hanging isolation points. The last 3 years I've been doing drone inspections, so that helps. It's faster than doing it on foot. You get a more detailed image up close versus having to set in the bucket up on every single pole. I can get, within 2 feet of each insulator transformer cutout, get like a clear image.
So when you do that kind of stuff, what are you looking for?
We're looking for. We've had a lot of bad our cutouts are what hold the fuse.
Mhm.
We used to get them in porcelain, and they crack and they'll break. So we look for the cracks in those, cracks in the porcelain insulators, broken poles, broken arms, frays in the wire.
I guess one of the things is different. I think is like for you in a rural area, somebody not they still have power, but the infrastructure that supports that, whether it be the pole, all the other pieces, those components that are out there, you have to inspect those. It's not like somebody's going to call you and go, "Hey, there's a tree laying on the line," necessarily.
Sometimes, but not always.
But so from what you're doing in a rural environment, like a lot of your stuff is definitely preventative. Like you're looking for a problem before it becomes a problem, as opposed to responding to it after it blows.
Yeah, so for instance, yesterday I went down and picked up a chainsaw chain from a shop down in Fallbrook, and like I said, we're always looking. And I look down line and I see an arm that's tilted,
And you're like, this is a
and
problem.
I was like, something's going on. And I was like, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I take off down the road and I go, a couple miles down the road, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I gotta see what's going on. So I pull over.
So you weren't even working yesterday, right?
I was.
Okay.
I was, but I wasn't. We had done a job somewhere else, and then I was.
So you could have had this is not my problem. This is not my area, not my
The
problem.
thought crossed my mind.
It did.
But they also kind of instill in us that, like, if you see something, say something.
Okay.
So I wasn't gonna worry about it. I'm headed down the road, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I gotta see what it is. So I pull over. I pull out I got a Mini 4 that I keep on my truck. I pull
Mini 4
drone.
drone.
Yeah. And I pull over. I put my drone in the air, fly down line, and I come up on this pole, and both the braces that hold it flat, both braces are busted.
What would cause that? Wind?
A tree falling through it at some point. But in the area that it was, you can't see it from the road. You can't access it with a vehicle. So nobody probably knew it had happened, and the fact that it was still energized,
Fluke.
Yeah. So that's one of those benefits of the preventative maintenance is it wasn't a problem yet, but it was going to be an issue, and when it became an issue, it'd probably be difficult to find, so we're better off to fix it.
So on something like that, how do you figure? You just got to run the line. So in an environment like that, you have the wire. What did you say the energy running through that?
The voltage wise, 14,000.
So 14,000 to go back to 240. If a 240, you lose a 240, how do you track it back to where the problem is?
So like if we have a voltage complaint at a house,
Yes.
we'll go. So if someone calls and says like I had one Wednesday on Wintergreen, they said we're not getting voltage to one leg. So typically the first thing that our dispatchers will tell them is check your breakers. They check the breakers. We'll show up and we'll check voltage on the top side and the bottom side of the meter base. And if for instance they've only got half the voltage they're supposed to have on an overhead transformer, so like a service cable coming above ground, we'll go back to the transformer, check voltage to the transformer. If it's different between the transformer and the meter base, we'll start looking at the service cable.
Okay.
If it's different coming directly out of the transformer, then that kind of tells us something's going on with the transformer. And it's kind of the same thing for an underground. If you check at the underground can and it's not the same at the house, you got a bad underground wire. If it's not right coming out of the transformer, then you have a bad underground transformer.
So how do you feel about above and below ground? Is everything going to below ground, or is it kind of a combination?
It's more of a money thing.
Okay.
Underground's more expensive, but it's less maintenance. Personally, if I were to push one way or the other, I would push towards underground because of the maintenance aspect of it, but a lot of people do overhead because it's cheaper.
And I guess you can see it. So if one of the other goes poorly, it doesn't. It really doesn't affect how you assess it or anything else. So if you lose power in a certain part of it, so it's. I think people, for me, I would think if you lose power, a section of power,
Yeah.
it's not always easy to figure. I mean, you got 70,000 lines, 70,000,
We've got about 7,000 miles
7,000 miles.
total. Yeah.
So 7,000 miles of wire that you've got to figure out where the problem is.
Yeah, and we're really good about sectionalizing, doing isolation points. So we've got fuses in our station, and then on a main line, you figure you might go a mile, 2 miles, and then there'll be another set of fuses, and so on. So like our station right there at 151 and 6, if something, that line is tied to into Shipman.
Okay.
So if something happens in Shipman, it's not going to kick it all the way back to there. We've got sectionalization points. So you kind of know, like, hey, it kicked right here at Rockford River Road. So you need to start there and then work it towards the end.
So so do y'all have like something monitoring it, or you do it based on like what your consumers are experiencing, or how do you figure out where the problem is?
It's a combination.
Okay.
If we're fortunate enough, somebody will call and be like, hey, I heard a loud boom, or hey, I saw a tree that fell, or something like that. That kind of gets us in like a general area. And then we've got these fault indicators that we hang on the line that blink, they blink red or orange, and orange is seeing an activation, red is an outage. So we can kind of follow those. Like we had
But how long did it take y'all to get all those on the lines? And is that like, as far as developing technology, how does that work? Because that seems like is that new or not?
they've had them up for a while. We go through and maintenance them. I don't know, like every 5 years, make sure the batteries are good. But I mean, they've had them since I've been there.
Okay. So it's not new technology.
They've obviously advanced in the way they work. Like we're getting some now that will send a notification to your phone saying like, hey, this set's showing this.
Okay.
So that kind of
So it's more real time information.
Yeah.
But I would guess a lot of the places that you work, they don't have satellite. They don't have cell service, correct?
It's getting better, but yeah, one thing we struggle with is our radio systems. Being in the mountains. I mean, it's hard to find something that, works outside of a line of sight.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So like if you there's two of you, a 2-man team, right? Is there ever an event where 2 people get taken out at the same time, or how do y'all plan for that to prevent that from happening?
As far as
Let's say there's some kind of incident out there, or is it possible for both of you to get hit by electricity at the same time?
I mean, that would be a shitty situation.
No doubt about it.
I would say there's always the possibility.
But is there things that y'all do ahead of time to prevent that from happening? Like you have one person that's kind of out of the.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where, so if someone were to be working on a pole and they get electrocuted,
Right.
and the person that is supposed to save them isn't properly trained, and they don't, so like, say I get burnt, I'm hanging on the pole. If the person that's supposed to come up there and get me doesn't think about the fact that the lines are hot, go back and make sure that they're dead, if they just run up the pole and try to get me, then there's just as good a chance that we're both going to be hanging.
So it's no different than what you're talking about when you go out and find a line down. They have to go back. Is that the mile between each that you've got to go back to?
Yeah, you've got to go back to the closest opening point and verify that.
So opening point. There's a mile between the two of them.
Well, not exactly. We
But
kind of
give or take.
Yeah, roughly. We give it. We do it off of. There's a lot to it. So if it's like
so that's not your department. That's the engineering department.
I mean, yeah, engineering does kind of figure it out, but we also do some of it ourselves where it's convenient.
Okay.
So like if we've got a line that runs through 20 miles of open field,
Right.
we're not going to put isolation points, every house
Because it's easier to get to 'em.
because it's less likely something's going to happen. It's easier to get to, where if it breaks and goes up a mountain, we're going to put one on this side of the mountain. We're probably going to put one at the top of the mountain and then one on the other side of the mountain.
So it's based on terrain and everything else.
Yeah, a lot of it is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think it's a good segue into talk about what it's like, because I think everybody's sitting at their house. You have a storm, snow, whatever, wind, and they're like, I don't see a power truck. I'm not gonna get power.
Yeah.
How does that work for y'all? Y'all get a call. Y'all get sent. What's the furthest you've been sent from here?
I've been in New Hampshire twice.
And what was that like up there?
Cold.
Cool. So that you never work in really good conditions, do you? It's either hot or cold.
It's never ideal.
Okay. What would you say an ideal day?
For me, about
Fishing?
yeah, blue skies, about 75.
Yeah. So when you go out and do the things that you do, what does it look like when you go to New Hampshire? Like how does it go as far as the workup to get you in there? So they think they're going to have a storm, you get put on standby, or how does that normally work?
Typically, storms and standbys, we stay in state, so we're part of it's Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Electric Cooperative or something. It's whatever's on your shirt, and it's the 3 states, and we're all in cahoots as far as co-ops. So we'll pre-plan for big storms, and if somebody thinks, hey, we're gonna get absolutely hammered, they'll have us come up beforehand. Not usually, but they can have you staged. Typically after the fact, they'll send us different places. But like when we went to New Hampshire, they had a bad ice storm, and it was like the day or the day after. They made sure we cover our own bases first to make sure that
you make sure y'all don't get hit. Y'all's assets are all the way up in New Hampshire, and the same storm hits you.
Yeah. So
Okay.
once we're clear, then they'll start dispatching people up north, which typically we go north versus south because all your big contractors are in the south. So like when they have those storms hitting Florida and Texas and down there.
So you never make it to the resort areas.
No, they've got tens of thousands of guys that are just waiting
to make, and y'all make pretty decent money on those trips, don't you?
Yeah, it's typically time and a half for us. It's time and a half from the time we leave till the time we get back.
But it's not easy work though, is it?
It's not. It depends on where you go. I mean, I've been on trips where it's pretty laid back. You do what they tell you to do, and then you end up waiting hours and hours for them to
give you your next assignment. So for you on those type of things, I would think it'd be difficult too, because you don't know the area.
Yeah.
If they don't, how does that work if they don't have cell service and things like that? So I'm thinking about is a catastrophic situation that they had in Asheville, North Carolina. How do you communicate and how do you do what y'all need to do just to get power back on?
So you're assigned a person, they call them a bird dog, and
Okay.
that's who is supposed to know the terrain where you're at, give you your orders.
So a local that's
Yeah.
supposed to know
So
more about it.
We pretty much rely off of them primarily, but then it goes back to your own knowledge as far as how electrical grids work. So we'll go down, if we're in a place and they're like, hey, we need you guys to start here, fix everything beyond here. We're going to go to the origination point. We're going to make sure that it's either live or dead. If it's dead, we're going to ground it. And then we're going to start working towards the end.
Okay.
Because there's and especially on storms, you have to ground it thoroughly, because people go into panics. They start hooking up these generators, and there's hundreds of instances each year where guys are getting burnt because people are incorrectly hooking up generators and they're backfeeding through the line.
So when you say burnt, we're talking about somebody getting electrocuted.
Electrocuted,
Yeah. Industry term, you don't want to get burnt.
Yeah, you don't want to get burnt.
So I guess technology is helpful. Like people are starting to get generators, but that also makes what you do. I think about like electric cars and firefighters and stuff that they have to deal with, which will lead to what we want to talk about at the end about first responders. But like from my standpoint, we have all these advancements, but it's still basic knowledge of almost not to that point. But I think about people settling the frontier and things like that. They had to know the land and they had to know how it worked.
Yeah.
In a very, very similar way, that's what y'all are doing. It's just using the tools that you have to maintain things and also deal with problems.
Yeah.
And you have to have all those different skills. How do you get those skills? Are there skills that you learn? Is it schools that you go to? Or is it just like there are a lot of different people with different life experiences? You come together as a team. This person adds this person adds this.
I'd say it's a combination of all of that.
Okay.
You get the schools that they send us to and the classes, I mean, they give you the book version
Okay.
of everything. We do a lot of on job training, which gives you like the real world version. And I think to get your journeyman's card, it's like 10,000 hours of working time that you have to log. And then you also get your experiences, your preferences, and your ways of working from your older generation, and which to me ties back into when you had the girls from Liberty saying how the younger generation has a lot to offer, but the older generation doesn't want to accept it. You get a lot from your younger generation as well, and me being kind of in the middle, I try to combine the two and then redistribute to the younger generation, like, hey, this is how we can do this. Let me put it in terms that
You understand.
you understand.
Well, that kind of leads me to the next question is what are we doing in the school systems and things like that? I think everybody has, just like you went to college. What are we doing in the school systems to prepare people to do the type of work that you do? Because obviously what you do is extremely critical. It's not like they're going to figure out a machine to do what you do.
Yeah. I think the schools are getting better, especially Amherst and Nelson, which are really the only two I can speak on. But as far as pushing trade programs, it doesn't have to be specifically line work, but just blue collar jobs in general, like the workforce that can't be duplicated by technology yet.
But even I think about this, I listen to a lot of stuff about AI and stuff like that. And AI, the crazy thing about that is going to require more from what you do because it requires a whole lot more energy.
It uses a ton of energy.
So explain that from your standpoint when working in the power industry. How does AI affect what you do, and what do you think when you hear that? Like, why does it require so much power?
That is, I'm going to say, not my department.
Not your department.
That's above me. But I know that they're getting ready to build a data center, and that data center is supposed to pull more load than our entire system together.
And when we say a data center, what is that, like a computer data center?
Computer data center.
That's crazy. And I don't know. I think it just goes back to the basics. I think I'm not trying to get on but I am going to, because it's my show. I can do it. But like, that's what bothers me is I think all these people have these great ideas. I saw something the other day where there's a big row of coal cars just full all the way to the top of coal. And underneath it said, electric car fuel. I think people have this. I understand emissions. If anybody's gone to a third world country where everything's diesel, you realize how poor the air quality is.
Yeah.
But you also understand that their air quality, it doesn't just stay there. It starts getting pushed all the way across. And yeah, we can do the best job in the world about being energy efficient, clean, and everything else. But like at the end of the day, we do not have enough power. Would that be accurate, especially with what they want to push to?
I would say it's accurate because you look at, you can never get rid of your energy. You'll never fully meet your energy need.
Everybody always wants more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, with the data centers, it's pulling tons. You have more data centers popping up. You have your lithium mining going on because they're trying to create, battery backup, but like the lithium is not great for the environment. The disposal is even worse. I mean, you've got your people that run your electric cars, and it's cool that, you can charge it, go. You don't have to deal with your emissions. But when you break down in the middle of nowhere, they're going to bring a generator out
And
and charge your car.
right, a gas generator.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's really easy to get inside of a box and say, okay, propane is the key. This is the key. This is the key. But at the end of the day, for you, it doesn't really matter. It's just like people need energy, and it's your job to provide that. Talk about some of the things that y'all do as far as proactive efforts. I think one of the things that always bothers me in our occupation is we're waiting for things to happen. Most of law enforcement is reacting to crimes in progress and things like that. Y'all spend a lot of time and effort trying to, and I think we're getting better at predicting and using technology and using information. But just talk about what y'all do to prepare yourselves to make sure what is so critical, which is power, make sure people keep that. Even if they're like when you first started, they just flip a switch and don't appreciate people like you and what you do to make sure they have power.
Yeah, my company is really good about, like we talked about, preventative maintenance. We're always looking for new technology as far as outage, like quick outage detection, quick restoration. We're really good about like our community outreach program, trying to educate the public as far as, like I said, if you see something, say something.
Right.
I mean, we're really good about that.
So it all goes back to mindset as far as an individual. Like you can have a corporate goal, but if that doesn't get down to the person that you are, which is, I really want to go home, that I can deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to deal with it today.
Yeah.
And always looking for things to. What does preventive maintenance look like?
Cutting trees, dead trees, anything that is obviously going to cause an issue. Like I said, when I fly my drone, I've done distribution and transmission inspections, like hundreds and hundreds of miles, just flying, taking pictures of poles, and that's 100% preventative maintenance. That's recognizing issues that could be, that will be, and then we have a program we put them in that creates service orders like, hey, you need to take care of this now, you need to check back, or
So basically you're the one in the field capturing the image. That image is downloaded to a computer. That computer then, so that's using a lot of technology, but it still requires somebody that knows what they're doing.
yeah. And we recently we're getting into all in-house drone operations, and we have an outside party that's been doing it before. And the difference is, I know what I'm looking for. This person, they know to take the pictures, they know what you tell them, but they don't know the specifics of it. So I've done my inspections, taken my pictures, and gone back and uploaded them. Well, while I'm in there uploading them, I'm looking at his as well, and I'm like, this is
Garbage.
pointless.
Yeah, he just took pictures.
Yeah. If you're taking pictures, it kind of defeats the purpose of.
So it takes somebody with a know-how, which I think is a really cool thing to go into. How do you prepare yourself to be really good at flying a drone? Because you won a competition recently, right?
Yeah.
You're on a truck.
Yeah.
How many trucks are you on?
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're ever on a. Oh, actually, I saw it at my work last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you do a selfie with it or no?
On before I got there. He was the early bird.
All right. So talk about the rodeo that y'all do.
So we do. It's the Gaff and Go Line Workers Rodeo. It's always been a skills competition. It's in Richmond. It used to be in Oak Ridge. They've had one in Lynchburg before. They do climbing skills, truck operator skills. I think more recently they started doing like a grilling contest. They do a t-shirt contest, and then as of 2 years ago, they started doing a drone operators competition.
And so who competes at this?
Anyone that's part of a cooperative. But I noticed they've also had some guys from contractors, and we've actually had people from the military as well. So anyone that's in the industry, I guess, would be a fair.
So what would the military, just drone
They
operations,
have
or
linemen.
do they really?
Mm-hmm.
For their posts, for their military
The
posts?
Army has linemen.
I didn't realize that.
No.
I learned something today. Gonna learn today.
Yeah.
So anyway, so talk about what was required of you in the drone skills portion.
So the drone skills portion was I'll try to give you an image. So they put 5-gallon buckets on top of poles, and I think it was 3 that were horizontal and there was 2 that were vertical. And you take off, you fly to these buckets, and
How far are so it's not line of sight. You can't see the buckets from where
it's line of sight there because the whole thing is probably on like an acre.
But you can't do what you need to do skill wise with line of sight. You have to use that piece of equipment to get what you need to get done.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
All right, so talk about what you have to do when you get there.
They put an image in the bucket, and they judge you on your clarity and how centered you are on the image. And so I'll fly to one bucket, center on it, take an image, next. I think it's 5 total, and then you come back and land, and they measure you on how close you are to where you take off versus where you land, and that's kind of how they put your score together.
So you got to fly, and it's not. I mean, I don't know anybody that hadn't flown a drone. Like, you got wind, you got everything else that you have to deal with, and like you can't get really close to that bucket because if you get a little wind, it could kick you into the bucket, and your drone's at the base of the pole.
Yeah, when I won the first year, it was kind of just getting like a feel for it, and the second year I'd come up with kind of a different plan. I was like, I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna put it in sport mode, which doesn't have any of the obstacle avoidance sensors. And I was telling my supervisor, and he just kind of looked at me. He was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Maybe not." I was like, "We'll see what happens."
So what did you do? Did you put it in sport mode?
I didn't. So what I fly now is a Mavic, a DJI Mavic 3E.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's got like a 56 power zoom camera. So when the guy told us, the more you have in the picture of the image in the bucket,
mm-hmm.
the better you're going to score.
The better score.
So I was like, I'll get, within 4 foot, zoom in, and I'll fill the whole thing up. And it worked.
It did work.
Yeah.
So again, I think a lot of what you do is either identify a problem before it's a problem, correct it, or you have a problem, now you work back to a solution. I mean, is that an accurate way of saying the way you look at things?
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, my co-op, we're pretty unique compared to a lot of other places because we do it all. Like, a lot of your places have specifics, like, I want to say Dominion. They've got overhead crews, they've got underground crews, they've got tree cutter crews. So we have a tree cutting crew, but we also cut trees. We do underground, we do overhead, we troubleshoot, we do new construction, we do rephasing, which is, revamping the old stuff. We do everything. We're switching orders and substations. I mean,
so what is your assignment now? What do you do now?
I do what I'm told.
So you're not, so whatever, so you don't have like a specific thing.
No. I mean, I could be in the bucket one day, I could be setting poles the next, doing underground repairs or new services. I could be flying the drone. I could,
I guess when you learn everything, then you kind of go. So how long is the crew that you have? Are you in a crew of 2 or 3 now?
I'm in a crew of 3.
And so the crew of 3, how, like, level of experience? You, based on my math, 14 years of experience. Mm. What about the other one?
My foreman's got 32 years.
Okay.
I think, and then my apprentice has maybe 3 years.
Okay.
So it's kind of
a good comment. So who has to do the most work?
Depends on the day.
Okay, I was gonna say The Apprentice. You're like, go get me this, go get me that.
If it's something that I feel like, because I've kind of been delegated to training of,
Hmm.
the apprentice. If it's something that I feel like, he can learn from or is competent enough to do, which I don't mean competent as like a derogatory term, but
But you don't want them to get hurt.
yeah,
You want them to. You want it. I think it's one of those things. You want them to be successful. You just don't want him to hurt himself
I,
in the
I want him
process.
to be able to do as much as he can,
Safely.
even if it's uncomfortable, but safe.
Okay. And that's a hard, I would say that is a really hard line sometimes to figure out because you can't predict everything. You know what your skill level is, but I think part of what makes what you do very difficult, which I think aligns with like first responders, are you don't get to pick where you go. You don't get, like, when there's an outage, you don't get to go, well, I really want to go over here. It's more comfortable for me. So you have to use a lot of, like, for us in law enforcement, we don't have a whole lot of different, we've got vehicles, we've got our firearms, we've got everything on our belt and everything else, but like you have a ton of stuff of equipment to make it work. It's not just as simple as like, oh, I've got a pole and I'll just throw something on it.
Yeah.
Like you've got a lot of components on there.
Yeah, and it comes back to like the whole like out of the box thinking. You even when you have everything that you could potentially need, that still doesn't mean that you have specifically what you need. Sometimes you have to get out of the box and
Improvise a little bit.
and I think that one thing that I try to put, I guess, into motion is I'm not the person that's going to say, "Hey, do it this way, you're doing it wrong," because that's not how I do it. I'm the person that's like, "Hey, do it how you want."
Make sure it works.
If you're I mean, you might F it up, but it can be fixed, but that's how you're going to learn.
You're going to learn that like your thought process didn't arrive at the successful destination, but you learned it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you're out there by yourself and you're the one making that decision, you might fall back to that, and then it's too late to have somebody to help you correct it.
Yeah, I can have someone tell me how to do something, but I'm probably going to do it the way that I think is right, regardless. So I'd try to, allow people to make their own decisions and come up with their own conclusions.
So back to major event and things like that. How do y'all coordinate? I understand going backwards, but like, let's just say in the rural area that you're in, 20, 30 houses without power. Like, how does that work? I think everybody sits there at home and they're like, says, I'm not going to get power for 12 more hours. How do y'all work through getting that done? And I guess in my brain, it's not really clear on how do 20 houses lose power.
So it comes back to what I call your isolation points, which are where your fuses are. So your main lines, you have 3 phases coming out of the station. And those are the more spread out isolation points, which, like we said, are more terrain based or accessibility based. And then what we try to do is every tap that comes off of that main line, we try to put a fuse on. So say, for instance, Rhodes Farm.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a tree fall in the back of Rhodes Farm, and our fuse is at the 4-way intersection, and it's going to have 20 or so meters off. So you can go back there and cut that tree off and then come and heat it back up, and all those houses are going to come back on at one time, which is the best case scenario. But if something happens, like a freak storm comes through and there's trees falling everywhere, and you have 15 different trees that have fallen in 15 different sections, that's when the slow restoration kind of happens. And when that happens, people do get pissed, but we work off of numbers. So we're going to try to get on as many people as we can and then work our way down. So we'll put on 100 before we put on 2.
Right. It's all dependent. And then you have your critical structures like hospitals, things like that, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, y'all don't have that.
We don't, but down in Palmyra, they've got, the Walmart distribution center, and
so that's a priority.
yeah. Oh yeah. Zion's Crossroads is a big priority.
Yeah. So talk a little bit. talk a little bit more about. I think it's kind of, we talked about being a first responder and in that designation and what that means. Different people get, you get discounts and you get all these different things. I think it's kind of odd. Just talk about what it feels like to be like, sheriff's office calls you and it's like, hey, we got a line down, and nobody there is doing anything. Like rescue can't go in, fire can't go in. They don't know, I mean, how many first responders have lost their lives with live lines? A lot of them.
Yeah.
And you're the one that's saving them. What does it feel like to not be known as one of them?
I mean, I definitely feel like I feel like we should be, as linemen, we should be recognized as well, because like you said, there's a lot of instances where the acknowledged first responders will call us before they can do what they need to do.
Right. And so, but on a day-to-day basis, like obviously our job is important in a catastrophic event, but I think if you talk about a car wreck, like that's pretty, it's not cut and dry, but it's not that difficult to, it's just, we've seen car wrecks before. We deal with the car wreck, we deal with the traffic and everything else. But like for y'all could have a catastrophic event and it's like y'all are recreating the wheel. So from my standpoint, y'all recreate the wheel on a daily basis.
There's a lot of, I can't think of the word, but yeah.
A lot of workarounds.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different components.
Audibles.
A lot of audibles. Yeah. Like there's no playbook really for what you do. Like there's some definitive things. Okay, this is the main power station, substation, and everything else. But there are a lot of different things that go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always changing variables.
So what is the most difficult area that you think for you to work in? Like if you're like, I think for us, we always think about active shooter. That's the worst possible scenario in a school type of environment. What is the worst case scenario, knowing what you know about power? What is the worst case scenario?
I mean, there's the worst case scenario I would say is when you have, I mean, personally, I hate going in substations.
Why is that?
Because if you're not like precise, it could turn into like a bomb and literally explode. Like the regulators that we have, if you don't know what you're doing and you step that thing one way or the other, it could explode, and it's 1,000-degree oil raining down on top of you.
And so you still have to do that kind of stuff with what you do?
We do, yeah. We do everything. We have specific departments, but we do a little bit of everything.
So what would cause you to have to regulate that?
Voltage issues. Like say your house is supposed to be carrying 200 and, all right, so what causes them, they can explode if they have an internal fault. They could explode if you try to, like, if you have a bad regulator and you don't, it steps voltage up and down. If you don't zero it, and which I don't know the specifics, but I know if you open it and it's not zeroed, it gets pretty funky. So if somebody calls about a voltage complaint, I go to this house and they have lower high voltage. I go to the next house, they have lower high voltage. Then I have to go back to the station and check the regulator to see what the output on the regulator is. And then you step the regulator up or down to change the voltage on the system.
And that could affect one house, or it could affect a ton.
It's going to affect every house on that circuit.
Yeah. How many? Well, we won't go into circuits. I don't want to give away.
I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I don't know. Like for me, I look at what we look at from a power standpoint, and they always talk about how our grid is, like you talk about, how frustrated people get when they don't have power. They get hot, they get cold, whatever. Their quality of life is directly affected by what you do. But I just wonder, from your experience, and maybe this isn't a good question, but like I think about, because I worked a case not long ago. Well, in my brain, it was not long ago. It was several years ago. But one of the things that was part of it is he worked for a power company, unnamed power company, but he had some really radical views of the way things should be. How much damage could someone do that knew what they were doing to a grid?
It'd be detrimental.
Devastating.
Yeah, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. I'm not gonna say it wouldn't take much, but someone with the knowledge could cause serious damage.
And what is the likelihood that they would ever get caught? Because we're talking about a lot of the stuff is isolated, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, which we do have a lot of security cameras and surveillance on the main places, but
But you don't. I think everybody thinks. One of the things that I heard is like a show the other day about the microchips that Taiwan is making, and if China takes that over, and all these different things. But like, I don't think people think like when people think about terrorist events, they think like somebody coming in there and shooting and all this other stuff. But like,
I mean, they could shut down the grid and.
Yeah, but I look at it as like from my standpoint is people learn from what other people accomplish. And so like from my standpoint, when we think about what can happen, I always think about like the vehicles. Like you get all these people, a mass of people walking in a vehicle. That's like a bomb, It's like it is a 5,000 or 6,000 pound, depending on what you have on it, battering ram that's just going through a massive humanity.
Yeah.
Which is what happened in New Orleans. But then I think about like when we talk about the power grid, like if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, they could like I think that would have a huge effect on people with like I don't know if I have power. I mean, just think about what happens when we think gas prices are going up. People are like mass hysteria, and like people just expect like they don't have the knowledge that you have of workarounds and things like that. And so back to my point with the chips and everything else is that if the grid goes down, like the small components go down, that's one thing. But like the large transformers, they say those take years to make.
Yeah, when you cut the head off of the snake, you create some serious issues.
How back to the power thing? I hate to end it with like freaking people out, but like from my standpoint, I look at it and I think, are we really doing y'all a service? Like with the work you do, not to first of all acknowledge the fact that y'all are definitely first responders, because like what you do is critical to civilization. Right. Because people become really uncivilized when, like I thought the other day when we didn't have Verizon in a few places went down and people were losing their mind. Like I can't call 911. I can't do this. You think about COVID. I think about people talk about that and they're like, people were frantic buying all the toilet paper. And a buddy of mine was like, you got water. Like, the French have been doing it for years like that. You don't need toilet paper. There's a way around it. But I think it's just what is projected in people's minds. And so like, from my standpoint, that is where y'all earn what you do as a first responder is you help society maintain order. Because without power, you don't have stoplights. You got a pampered population. It's not like over in Afghanistan where they have everything on generator and you're like, we may or may in the capital, you may or may not have power today. Yeah. If you're wealthy enough to have a generator, you may or may not have power because you can't get gas. But I do think part of society is people that maintain the critical infrastructure and respond when that fails are part of society, which to me, by designation, should be a first responder.
Yeah, I agree.
So anything you'd like to add, like a shout out? Talk about do you need any more business as far as yards? You're like happy?
I'm good.
I was going to say, since you're so technical, unless you hire your brother to like cut really fast, you've got enough?
I don't know. I think my wife would give him a run for his money.
As far as how fast she does?
Yeah.
I think it's a family thing because Amber's like that too. She cuts grass like she's on fire. Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, anyway. Well, I appreciate your time, man. It's been really, really good. And I don't know how we get y'all that designation, but I think maybe contact some people in government and just like get that designation because
I mean, all we can hope is the right person hears it.
I just wonder, like, so I've seen the flags. You've got green for the military, you got blue for law enforcement, you got red for firefighters. What do y'all want? What color would you want on the flag? You can't do black because that's like ISIS. So, like, what color would you go with?
I don't,
Like,
probably navy blue.
navy. You can't. We already have blue. You can't back the blue. So, like, you got to pick a color. What color?
I don't know.
So that's the key is.
Once I come up with a color, they'll accept it.
Yeah, I think so. All right, man. I appreciate your time. All right, thanks.